This lush Michigan landscape combines colorful plantings with unique garden structures, including a 2-story gazebo and an unusual maze. The story of the garden and the gardeners on A Gardener's Diary.
Dan Crow and Jim Faisal have developed their garden over 12 years. Starting by remodeling the house, they gradually transformed their wooded retreat in Perry, Michigan into a garden showplace. Dan is the head gardener at the Governor of Michigan's residence, and his expertise and training as a garden designer are evident in the plantings around his own home. Although Jim isn't a professional, he's an enthusiast and especially enjoys working in the vegetable garden. Dan, we're in Michigan in summertime, and you are lucky to live in a place where it feels this cool in the summertime, and although you have to put up with the Zone 5 winters. And right behind us is your vegetable garden, and you haven't just designated it for vegetables, you let perennials grow in amongst things, and you've also done a great job of sort of enclosing it with perennials on the outside.
Actually, this was the first garden that Jim and I built. We fenced it off, did the raised beds for the vegetables, and surrounded it with perennials.
And this Semisifuga is a favorite plant of mine. I'm used to seeing it more in a woodland situation.
This is full sun, and as long as it gets plenty of water, it's fine.
And it just stands up there tall, you don't have to stake it?
It's not even staked, and then we have this clematis growing up into it as well.
And that's Semisifuga
Americana.
Americana, that's right. And look at that clematis. That's going to be great. It's the same purple that we see here?
Correct.
Well, your vegetable garden, how soon can you start producing in Michigan?
We have zucchini, we have peppers. That's about it for now.
And you've got a utilitarian fence, but you've done a great job of covering it with plants.
We have squash growing up at Morning Glory. Clematis. Actually, you get a great view from the bedroom window upstairs looking down onto it.
And then the palms, that's sort of a fun tropical touch. You don't expect to see palms in Michigan ever.
No, actually, last year we did bananas. This year we did the parlor palm. There's a local nursery that holds some of our tropical stuff over the winter.
So you bring these out in the spring, and they make a nice little Victorian sort of feel to me. I don't know.
The urns are kind of fun. They're a cement urn, but we use floral spray and stain just to antique that a little bit, so it doesn't look like cement.
And lots of vegetables.
We grow lots of leeks, lots of peppers, tomatoes, cabbage, Swiss chard.
So your garden started from sort of the center and then
worked
moved out.
Correct.
And you have 5 acres?
And about 2 of it is garden.
Wow. And I really love your teepees. Those are a lot of fun.
Those are just sticks from the woods. They're elm, which eventually do die. It's the American elm. So we can cut those and use them as the teepees for the green beans and the morning glories to grow up. Well, I think I've always had an interest in gardening since I was very young, as far back as I can remember. I grew up in Dearborn, which is a suburb of Detroit. My parents were originally from the South, and we would vacation in the summer at my grandfather's home. He had quite a large vegetable garden, and I was always into it, and they would let me help pick beans or pick tomatoes, and I just found a love for it there. I think that it wasn't such a chore doing it that way growing up. It was more fun. Across the street from me, directly across the street, there's a woman by the name of Vanna Sekalitis. When we were young, we couldn't call her Mrs. Sekalitis because we couldn't say the name, so we started calling her Kita. Kita had the most wonderful garden I've ever seen. It was on this postage stamp-sized lot. She would give us starts, and we'd be able to plant them in the backyard at my mother's house, and that's how I started gardening.
I have to touch this Petasites, and I've never seen it blooming.
The blooms last about 3 weeks.
And it doesn't threaten to take over your garden?
No, it's not invasive here at all.
Feel how rough that is.
I know, it's a great plant.
And I like the way you've got it against this wall with these great birdhouses. What's
Many
the
of them
story
do
with
have
those?
birds. Just finds as we come along, and we'll place it up on the garage wall.
And this Petasites does not take over for you?
No, it doesn't.
Because it can
It's
be
been here
quite
probably 6 years, and this is all we have.
So in Zone 5 in Michigan, it's a good plant. You don't
It's
have
a great plant. It does like lots of moisture.
And this area of the garden looks just a little bit more formal with this pond.
Well, I think it's probably the limestone edging on the pond, and that was a great find. That was for a client who was going to do a small pond about this size, and they decided not to do it, and they gave us the limestone.
So it came out of you got the material and decided what to do with it.
The pond was already here. We just used Ohio bluestone as the edging, and then when this was given to us, we formalized the area a little bit more with the limestone.
And your color combination over here with the hydrangeas and the philopendula and that daylily, it's a perfect color daylily to go with that Preziosa hydrangea.
Yeah, that's a great hydrangea for Zone 5. It's a cross between the microphilias and the serrata, and by the time it's finished, it'll be deep burgundy.
And I always like the purple stems on it. So will that die back to the ground for
No,
you in
that
the winter?
does
It'll
not die
keep
back.
its
Yes.
shape. And the way you've used the daylilies in the front, I like that.
Yeah, it's a nice combination.
When you're out here doing these combinations, I know gardening is all about editing and refining, but did you think this is going to be a purple color scheme area or lavender?
No, actually, this was all by accident.
All by accident. And it just worked
The
out.
philopendula was the first thing, then the Preziosa went in next, and the daylilies are about 3 years old.
Well, it works beautifully. And this is nice and lush here, Dan, and I like the way you've created enclosure on the opposite side with these large conifers. They create almost a stage for this spectacular angel's trumpet.
Yeah, the arborvitae act as a nice backdrop so that the color just bounces out at you.
Now that's something a little bit risky, I think, for some people to do, to just throw in a big tropical, but you've done it very successfully.
Well, thank you.
When we return, Dan shows us an unusual spruce. The new branches actually weep upward to expose a contrasting color.